who got cheated on, what were the early signs indicating that your partner might do it before they actually cheated? Story 1. I always find it unusual when I just start getting accused of cheating, or an unusual amount of fabricated fights, because I immediately recognize a guilty conscience. Story 2. Sudden interest in losing weight, distance, unwarranted anger at me, work trips away with late flights home, lack of interest in me or my family, lack of interest with me anyway. Looking back, they add up, but at the time, it can be hard to put your finger on, and in my instance, I thought he was depressed. LOL. Story 3. When they started using their phone in secret agent mode and suddenly had an inexplicable interest in getting really fit with someone who wasn't you, those were the signs. It's like watching a poorly disguised heist movie where you're the last to know. Story 4. I used to think cheaters were the hot and arrogant brads. So I stopped dating the popular kids when I was a teenager and went for the cute geek gamer type. Turns out he cheated on me, which was the most pain I felt when I was 27 because the thought never crossed my mind that someone I loved so much and someone I thought was so kind would be able to hurt me that bad. There is no type. Story 5. Projecting. Many years back, I dated someone who was extremely jealous of other women, constantly wanted to go through my phone, constantly checked up on me, regularly accusing me of cheating on her, etc. And turns out she was doing all of that herself the entire time. Story 6. Insane. Jealousy accusations. Weird phone behavior, picking fights, dropping off, avoiding conversation, becoming obsessed with their looks, appearance, workout. Story 7. A hard shift in typical behavior, usually revolving around things that were previously public, suddenly being secret. I caught my ex-GF cheating BC. She would usually talk about who she was with often, then suddenly became vague about those details. She used to have me use her phone to look things up, and around that same time she suddenly was very guarded about where it was and wouldn't let me look. She also stopped sharing her work schedule. She got caught because she said she would be working a double, and I had already suspected some shenanigans, so when I casually walked into her work, and not call her cell directly, to ask her something, they said she wasn't there. I immediately called her cell, and she said she was in her unit and not to disturb her. If you were at work, we would be having this convo face-to-face, and hung up. She knew it was over. We had the talk a few hours later and went our separate ways. Story 8. Also have to add, my first indication was this one time I took his vehicle to take the dogs to the park. One of them is a notorious crotch sniffer. She was overly interested in the front passenger seat. Knowing her inclination for a good crotch sniff, my mind immediately went to questioning whose smelly saw I, but was sitting in that seat. Turns out he was having with the side chick in the front passenger seat. Dogs know. Story 9. We had a 15-year marriage. About 7-8 years in, I found men's underwear beneath the headboard. There were 2 pairs, and I thought it was very strange as I'd never seen them before, but she assured me that they were mine from ages ago. I always found this odd, but never had any other indication of cheating. 12 years in, the exact same thing happens. I find a pair of socks that definitely isn't mine. I would never buy them. They were of some show I'd never seen. She said they were a secret Santa gift from a coworker, and I believed it. I still don't know for sure about the first 2 times, but 3 years ago, almost to the day, I walked in on her having with our neighbor. Story 10. Increased phone use, change of habits, dressing better than usual, looking after themselves better, might mention someone often, being defensive when asked innocent questions, being distant, being aggressive towards you, story of where they were and with whom changes, etc., etc. Story 11. Starting fights, being defensive, projecting. He would start fights over nothing to try to get me to leave or him leave. He would literally start fights when he was about to cheat on me, or after to make himself feel less guilty, I guess. I would say being secretive of their phone is a big one, but mine was overly not secretive of his phone. I'm almost positive he had a burner somewhere, but I also had never looked through his phone in the decade that we were together, so he didn't really need to be super secretive. But one day I got a gut feeling. We were about to buy a house. Gave in to my gut feeling and went through his phone when he fell asleep, and that was it. Years and years of cheating and so much more LOL. So gut instinct is the biggest one for me. May not be an early sign, but is a sign you should not ignore. I was suppressing my gut instincts for so long because of trauma that I assumed I was just overreacting or had anxiety. But no, I wish I had trusted it sooner. Story 12. Look out for over-explanation of simple things. When the dinner with her friend has a TV script attached to it, you know something's up. Guess this is more for ongoing cheating but still applicable, I guess. Story 13. He became meaner and colder towards me and was way more secretive with his phone. I don't know if he physically cheated, but he absolutely planned to and was having some kind of emotional affair. It's so obvious looking back, and I kind of knew at the time but didn't want to believe it as I'm pregnant, and I couldn't imagine him ever hurting me that badly. We've been broken up 2 months now. Story 14. He checked out other women. Not just a bit, but in obvious ways. I'm also here to say that people that chase after that exciting feeling of love are, in my opinion, much more likely to cheat. They'll always be searching for that feeling, and you can't give them that forever. They also give themselves away in small ways like saying all men cheat or that they're not a good person. They'll even say these in a joking way, but actually they're telling on themselves. Also, just a little extra note, stay away from men that disrespect older women or older people in general. It was a big sign that he wanted to cling on to his youth. People like that will usually cheat on you with someone younger someday because they hate growing old. Hope that helps. Story 15. Disengaging in general and prioritizing outside activities over existing plans together. Most especially, never trust someone who ditches you over the holidays. Story 16. Whatever trace of my presence I left in his apartment, EOG, a sticker, a hairpin, a note, it made him upset cause he considered it possessive. The truth is, he just wanted his crib to pass for a bachelor pad, so that no other woman would suspect he was in a relationship. Also, he did his best to look single when attending any parties together with me under the pretext, I hate clinginess in public. You know, just in case he'd run into someone he was interested in. With hindsight, I should never had ignored those signs or found excuses. Story 17. Coldness. Impatience. Staying late at work or going to meetings more. Sharing stories about this person. Accidentally bumping into this person at social events. Then finally, maybe we should see other people too. Story 18. Building the narrative that he was the victim and I was the villain. Eventually, to make it sound like the idea of him cheating was another crazy accusation. He started doing things like leaving the back door unlocked when he would go out, so that I would mention it when he came home. Then he would deny it. Or he would move things, like take things out of our living room and put them in the garage. And when I couldn't find them, he would say he didn't know what I was talking about. And I would then find them and accuse him of moving them, which he of course denies. Double book stuff, then make out I never told him of original plans, and having to cancel was me being insecure. And then just doing other shitty things so that I would have a go at him. He would take the lunch I made for work and then tell me I never made it, and he would never just take it. Like I really didn't realize at first what was going on. But he was painting the picture that I was both going crazy and making stuff up, and that I was always having a go making accusations, and that he was constantly having to deal with me making accusations or being horrible. I picked up on it when he started telling his parents and friends about how much I had a go at him and blamed him for stuff that he honestly had no idea about. He was doing a great job at laying out the narrative that I was paranoid and insecure and making stuff up, so that when his cheating became less careful, I just sounded to everyone like I was having a go at him again and being insecure and wanting an excuse for an argument. Story 19. I feel some of these comments are missing that the question asked for signs before the cheater ever chested. Before my ex ever started suddenly having to work late and early, because he was seeing his AP before and after work, I should have known he would cheat because of his poor boundaries around other women. He would claim he was naturally flirty, but it didn't mean anything. He'd always have girl besties that he was too close to. He was too affectionate to other women, like he'd want to play with their hair and ask them to play with his. Basically, he was welcoming opportunities for feelings to grow. I don't think he ever made the first move, but he encouraged. I know for a fact there were at least 2 different girls he cheated with, but I suspect 1 or 2 others. I have to co-parent with him. He got himself a new girlfriend that's 10 years younger, and he's doing the same exact thing with her. It's only a matter of time. This girl seems jealous of me for some reason when she needs to direct her energy to her best friend, his current bestie. Story 20. I've had 3 different occurrences of this, so here they are. 1. Start talking a lot about an old friend of mine. She's so cool. We hang out until 3 a.m. yesterday. 2. Saying that he worries I'm gonna leave him for another person one day. Jealous of my friends, saying some of my friends must have a crush on me too. Way more lovey-dovey than usual. Story 21. Women swooned over him regularly. I learned that there's an invisible open for business sign that some people wear. It's a vibe. Those with no intention of cheating keep that invisible sign turned off, and the opposite can tell. When I was married the first time, I kept that sign off and never had to fend off a man from hitting on me. When I was divorced and dating again, I turned my invisible sign on and never wanted for male attention. When I met my second husband, the sign went back off. It's all about the vibe you throw out there. Cheaters always have the sign on. Story 22. Subtle changes in communication. They started being more vague about how their day went. Returning texts and calls aren't as much as a priority as they used to be. Story 23. I don't know about indicators of planning to cheat, but if they aren't answering your phone calls and forgetting to call you back, they are probably already cheating. Story 24-1. Being really secretive with his phone to the point he wouldn't even look at it if I was watching ma close by to him. 2. Picking fights with me about the tiniest of things. 3. Going to the gym almost every day and eating healthier. 4. Getting angry with me when I would ask about date nights, future plans, Josh, holidays, we need to book, etc. Happened more than once, which is why I knew every single time he did it. Story 25. Was suddenly super paranoid about me cheating to the point I wasn't allowed hang out with people of the opposite, even in groups. Even thought he'd previously been cool with me having male friends. Reading my text while I showered, convinced I was deleting things when he couldn't find anything. He was projecting his behavior onto me. Story 26. I had a boyfriend who asked me about polyamory and if I was interested. I told him I wouldn't be against it, but it depends on the right person. Suddenly, a week later, he had a person in mind, whom I was fine with, but when it didn't work out and I tried calling it off, multiple times, he kept telling me I had to keep trying, to the point I had constant panic attacks. It took a while for me to finally end it, cause at the time I had low self-worth, from previous, and just wanted someone. Dumbass really thought it was a mutual breakup too. Eventually, I found messages of her telling him it was love at first sight when they had met in class a few months ago. Whether they cheated or not, appeared to be all planned in my opinion. As some of the comments say, geeky and ugly don't matter. If attention comes their way, they'll entertain it. My current husband is actually the most attractive person, in my opinion, of course, LOL, I've dated, and has treated me the best. Story 27. When you read thread like this, it's good way to introduce doubt in your mind. Please keep that in mind, people. Not everyone and everything is and about cheating. Story 28. Texts from a new coworker. Changes in phone access or placing it screen side down when that didn't used to be the case. New workout routines. Joining a run club, LOL. Story 29. Trust your gut. But a bog change can bring it out. A new job with new people van bring new behaviors that at first seem normal. Because it's new. Talking about a person more but then stop talking about them altogether with no reason. Weird phone behavior is definitely a part of what made me see. Came home after a work thing pretty drunk and I went through his phone and found the evidence I knew would be there. My gut told me, and I was right. Story 30. I was very young and naive, and he was my first love. I eventually found solid proof of cheating, multiple times, but here were some good warning signs. Disappearing at the end of the night, unreachable until the next morning, secretive with phone and deleted all text messages, kept me away from friends and family, would not include me on guys' night out, even though the other guys brought their girlfriends. Very reluctant to declare our relationship official. Avoided claiming me as his girlfriend. Story 31. The guy she cheated on me with, we only very briefly met a few days earlier at a club when he came up to me and said, my girlfriend was hot. He then used the pics that had been posted later on Facebook to work out who my GF was and added her, and together they planned a meet at the club. I caught her out the night she went and broke up with her the following morning. Story 32. Precognitive dreams. Gut instinct. Women's items that aren't yours. Women's hairs that aren't yours in their house. Leaving super early for work when you know their work doesn't open for hours after. Suddenly wanting to get fit, lying about other things, projecting, picking fights to call a break at convenient times, birthday, holiday, then come crawling back a week later, drug abuse, easy to give into temptation, aggressiveness, lack of intimacy, stories changing each time they're recounted, setting their relationship status to me only, gaslighting that gets more severe over time to paint you as insecure and all in your head, etc. Also, proposing openness to a threesome in early days. People who are truly monogamous wouldn't want to open a relationship in any sense. If they're open to the idea, then they'll want to pursue it eventually. Story 33. Started watching his diet, taking salads for lunch. Became very protective of his phone. Would go to bed early and would be on the phone when I finally came in. Claimed he was playing Candy Crush. Became generally quiet, moody, and petulant. Story 34. Happened to me in college, but hindsight is 20/20 and the dead giveaway is getting the sorry I fell asleep excuse after not hearing from her all night. Story 35. Multiple things. 1. Lack of effort and care. 2. Don't communicate their feelings. 3. Start withholding information. 4. Always on the phone. 5. Always keep bickering. Story 36. Crocodile tears when I accused him of cheating. There are psychopaths and sociopaths that are experts in their games. Don't buy it. Your gut feel will always tell you. Story 37. In my experience, when I was cheated on, the other person becomes way colder to you, not responding the same way or not responding at all, and changed behavior around you. Story 38. I've had a week of dreams she was seeing someone else. Then the gut feeling hit me. She just started to ignore me. I've done the same. I have made lots of effort to communicate, but I feel it's a one-sided relationship and have said that to her. Oh, I would send long texts about my feeling and her reply would be, "Love you. We are trying, but I've just gone cold to the bone. It is what it is. I'm generalizing, I just can't help the feeling." Story 39. I'd say any new hobby or interest is suspect. A lot of people are mentioning a new interest in improving their appearance in some way. But my ex-boyfriend became suddenly and fanatically vegan after years of being a big meat eater. Turns out the girl he was cheating on me with was a militant vegan. My ex-husband had a dramatic turn in his taste in music when he was cheating. He also started recommending restaurants that we'd never been to, but all of a sudden he loved them. It was so obvious in hindsight. Story 40. He got a call and called the person Sweetie. When I asked him about it, he said it was his mother. I questioned him on calling his mom Sweetie, and he acted surprised. Turns out it was his ex whom he was secretly making plans to move back in with. It was a short-term relationship for me, so I got out before more damage was done. Several months later, his ex, who he was now living with again, found out that he had been two-timing her and kicked him to the curb. Story 41. When they cheated on someone before, statistically speaking, someone who cheated once is 3x more likely to do it again. Apparently, once that taboo is broken, it's far easier to repeat it. You might be the lucky exception, but chances are you're probably not. And especially if they cheated on their previous partner with you, they will most likely do that same to you, no matter how much they say they've changed. I learned that the hard way. Story 42. Usually there are little changes in their behavior and demeanor. They start snapping at you for silly things or for stuff that never bothered them before. They start telling you things they don't like or want you to change. They become secretive with their phone, taking it to the bathroom with them, or turning notifications down or off, leaving the room to answer calls. Story 43. It wasn't hard to figure out because my husband was a teacher, and so was his affair partner. Two things. 1. His car was in the shop. I went to the school to pick him and walked towards his classroom. It was almost Christmas, and his affair partner met me in the hallway to greet me and said she had a present for my son. I accepted but thought it was weird. 2. My husband rolled over in bed, and I noticed that his phone was on, so I picked it up and it went directly to the Facebook page of the woman I had met just days earlier. He and she first had on Mother's Day. I'm not bitter at all. Story 44. She had a specific kind of outfit that I noticed she only really wore when she was expecting to within 20 minutes of us meeting up. Flip-flops, leggings, and a tank top, specifically. She never wore that combo if we were going out, or otherwise just had something going on. Just when she wanted to be able to disrobe quickly. At the time, I thought it was funny and honestly kinda smart. I noticed her wearing that getup more and more when she was heading out to hang out with friends or on other personal business. That and her starting to create distance made me a bit suspicious. A few weeks after I started noticing these changes, her best friend called me to tell me she was cheating. Story 45. Less affection, petty arguments, general distaste for me becoming mean, blame shifting, seeing her come out of another guy's house, seeing text messages. Story 46. He started being mean for no reason, and when we'd go out drinking, he'd ask why I was so nice to him. It was a weird combination of mean for no reason and constantly telling me how nice and kind I was, and that he didn't deserve it. Then one day, while scrolling on someone's dog rescue page, I heard some older lady passively say, "If your dog starts snapping at you, somebody else is feeding it." It's like a light bulb went off and everything connected. Story 47. They kept accusing me of cheating, constantly. She was my first girlfriend, and I never thought I'd be with anyone else, so having to constantly argue that I wasn't cheating on the only person outside of family to love me felt fucking strange. Like, she'd be bawling her eyes out and accusing me of everything. And it was so strange because she was my very first in everything. So when she told me she cheated on me, I realized she was fucking projecting from miles away. I haven't been able to trust anyone on feelings they have for me since, nor have I been on a date or anything since then, some 19 years ago. Hope it was worth ruining my self-esteem, confidence, and self-worth. I'll never be in a relationship again. Story 48. Got fired for inappropriate behavior at work, and of course claimed it was just a misunderstanding of a stupid joke. Nope. By that point, he was full-on in hunting mode, looking for a vulnerable person he could cheat with. Story 49. She was extremely flirty with her male friends only. I'm not hating on flirty personalities, but she took it too far. Then proceeded to cheat on me multiple times with the same male friend. Story 50. That she had cheated on every relationship she'd been in over the previous 5 years, and that was in fact how she came to be with me. Somehow, I thought she would be different with me. She wasn't. Story 51. The first one started being really busy apparently, and never had time for anyone. She started talking to her ex and making time for him. Me being a dumb kid didn't realize what she was doing until she had done it. The second one accused me of checking out every girl we walked past or any girl that was in public. Became extremely defensive when I asked what she was doing after work. Then started going through my phone and accusing me of cheating on her. She'd change her name in my phone. Finally, the last one just started randomly disappearing after dinner or in the middle of the night. I'd ask her about it and she'd feign ignorance. Then she'd start picking fights with my friends, significant others, and demand to leave after we arrive at a party. She also then started hanging out with a work friend a lot. And if I asked what they were doing or if they were having fun, she'd tell me to off or tell me I was being jealous for no reason. Looking back, I've had a rough time dating LOL. Story 52. Bringing up conversations they had with their friend a lot. New music, new hobbies, newfound interest in looking attractive. Over-explaining, I found this song by accident the other day. Like, what was the purpose of announcing that isn't that how people discover songs? More frequent bathroom trips or increased phone use in general. Nausea-inducing anxiety because you are subconsciously aware of all the signs. Story 53. Suddenly making excuses to get out of things you used to do together. Better is when they make that excuse, but then find them doing that thing that day. Story 54. Your friend who is a woman you met in college is getting married and invited you to the wedding? Obviously, you have a thing for her. Anyway, typing this out reminded me her birthday is tomorrow and I should text her. Thanks. Reddit question. The friend, not the cheating ex. Story 55. When I happened to walk by our walk-in closet and noticed her texting, and when she saw me, she quickly shut her phone screen off, then got weird when I asked her about it. We both went to bed shortly after and I could hear her phone making noises like she was receiving texts. She was sleeping, so I just looked at her phone screen and saw a message that said, "I really enjoyed last night." She had gone out the night before. From a dude named Sean. I confronted her and she admitted it. Played the victim at first, but ultimately told me that it had been going on for months. The worst part, it was one of our apartment complex's maintenance guys. He was a young and good-looking dude. She was a stay-at-home mom for our two girls while I was working 50 to 60-hour weeks. That was the first time I caught her cheating. After the second, I left her. Story 56. Glaring silences. She would come home and say, "Oh, I hung out with Nathan today. We went and got a sandwich, we hung out by the lake." Like, I can hear you not saying, "and then we had at his place." People don't just end sentences that way. Story 57. Acting distant phone. Hoarding. Talking way too much about one person from at work or the gym or whatever. Sex life stops or is greatly lessened. Suddenly starts stupid arguments. Sudden behavior changes rework. Work lunches, staying late, work trips. Sudden love bombing after some of these work trips and such. Story 58. He would tell small lies when they were unnecessary. He would give extra details on where he was going and why, like he was trying to explain himself. He didn't seem to appreciate the ways I was caring for him every day. Yet he was fine with benefiting from what I did. He was always busy or stressed about something. He stopped initiating physical contact. He started to act a little mean or at least uncaring. His gaze was empty. He couldn't look me in the eye. Story 59. Instagram following comprised of mainly women, several in bikinis, liking pictures of these PPL in bikinis, erasing WhatsApp and Instagram messages, saw history, difficulty expressing feelings and emotions, insecurity, and need for validation. Cheater behaviors before they even think of cheating. Story 61. Flirting with attractive people. 2. Saying they could not be with one person. 3. Disinterest in you. 4. Damned if you do and damned if you don't about anything. 5. Mental issues from past trauma, making commitment impossible. 6. Not acknowledging the relationship on social media. 7. Telling another person they love them. 8. The habit of lying, untruthful. 9. Coming home late. The best way to know is if the relationship is not emotionally reciprocal, just leave. Story 61. For me, the biggest red flag has been partners, either abruptly or generally, excluding me from their social world. Maybe they have after-work drinks or go out with other couples often and never invite you, or they have lots of supposedly close friends you've never met. Basically, if there's a pattern of them treating your relationship as entirely separate from their other relationships, that's not an accident. You're being minimized, you're hidden, and they're making moves. Story 62. The phone. Watch how they protect their phone. Side note, a lot of mobile games have chat features. That's how I caught mine. Words with friends more like words with friends with benefits. Story 63. They started becoming really secretive with their phone, always keeping it face down or taking it with them everywhere. Looking back, it was definitely an early red flag. Story 64. Projection. Accused me of cheating. So much so that she actually started a serious fight. BC, I cheated on her in her dream. Stopped showing me any form of intimacy, not even a hug. Stopped using any of the pet names she had for me. Stopped joining my team on a game we played. Started playing mind games. And mental abuse. Tried to make me believe I was at fault for minor issues, or even non-existent issues. Money started to disappear from the bank account. Could not account for where it went. All of the above within a span of 2 weeks. Then I found legitimate evidence via chat text logs. Story 65. Abrupt changes in long-established grooming habits and fashion. Excessive cell phone use in unusual places. Emotionally and physically distant, intimately or otherwise. Long periods of absence with no explanation and thinking the SO won't find that unusual. Gaslighting. Story 66. Honestly, I think when there's a few ways that you can tell. 1. When they start bringing up names you've never heard of. Of course, it's natural to meet new people, but I find when a certain name gets brought up that you've never met, heard, or seen this said person and they're hanging out with them outside of work or etc., it's suspicious. 2. When they begin accusing you of cheating. I found now being in a healthy relationship, it honestly never comes up. Yeah, some insecurities arise, but I trust my partner and don't believe they're actively cheating. Nor does it mean I'm safe, but why bring it up if you're happy? Becomes rather unusual or left lane. 3. When they begin texting and make sure that you cannot see their screen. Let's say you're laid up watching a movie. If you have nothing to hide, you'll just respond without getting out of bed or off the couch. Why jump up or even turn their body so you can't see their screen? IDK, if I'm cozy, I'm putting my responding and putting my phone down. Why do all of that? 4. Canceling last minute. Accidents definitely happen, but I always found when cheated on that suddenly things would happen, or I would get avoided by my partner and it felt rather out the norm. 5. Looking through your phone, or finding something to accuse you of. I think starting fights over very small things as well to make you feel as though you're crazy. Love is definitely real and out there, but knowing the signs early can just help. Anyone who loves or cares about you would be willing to communicate and be open and honest about cheating. Wishing you luck. Story 67. If you have never done anything to make them not trust you and they start accusing you of cheating, they are either cheating already or looking for a reason they can use to justify it later. Story 68. Became incredibly mean. Got very cagey about work. Quickly closing tabs or locking their phone as soon as you enter the room, even if you aren't approaching them. Acts like you don't exist unless they want. And then once said, emotionless is done, they vanish into their escapism immediately. Story 69. Got cheated on and had no idea this would have happened. I thought back then that we were super solid. There was, however, one thing I was able to reflect on, and that happened a few times. Many lies of omission or downplaying her relationship with her colleagues and friends. What I mean by that is that she would express that this is just a colleague, or that we just share similar taste. What I have learned through that is that lies of omission are often perpetrated by dishonest and manipulative people, because they withhold some information regarding the true nature of certain things. I initially put that on the account of immaturity, and should have confronted her earlier before she cheated. Story 70. Willingness to deceive, even at the smallest of situations. Someone who is willing to lie or misdirect with ill intent or for personal gains, that would be a tell-on if they'd be willing to cheat. Story 71. Before he actually did it, his temper with me was very short, quick to anger, quick to discount my interests, quick to find innocuous things annoying. He was distancing himself from our emotional connection. But earlier than that, he had an inability to have mature conversations about his sexual desires and needs. Never open, never blameless or shameless, never easy or lighthearted about it, always very guarded. Story 72. Made weird comments about my friends such as, she is so hot it's insane and she dresses in a way to show her and she knows it. Or, I feel so bad that she doesn't like oral. Means she never got it good. I want to eat her out so she understands how good it can be. Story 73. They were suddenly wanting to look better, i.e., starting suddenly joining a gym and working out a lot, changing their appearance and started dressing better, putting more effort into their appearance. And one of the more obvious signs, too, started with him staying out later than usual. Honestly, all the signs were there, but I was young and definitely had rose-colored glasses on. A part of me back then always knew they were up to no good and assumed it was because of who I was, or lack thereof. It was only until I got older and realized it had nothing to do with me, and everything to do with them and who they are as a person. Story 74. They text less. The lies being to get really way out. They become very distant and disrespectful towards you and your relationship. They become less considerate when making decisions. They stop coming home and don't call you and give a lame excuse like I was working late and slept in my car. Story 75. He stopped caring and barely spoke to me despite living together. Then one day I opened my laptop that he has used and his Facebook Messenger was up. He had been chatting with a girl he only met through me about our relationship. I don't know if he ever physically cheated, but he did emotionally. He then said that he wished he was dating the other girl in the messages. I never explicitly told him I knew, but he could tell I wasn't acting myself. He broke up with me. We had dated for 3 years and started dating her shortly after. Turns out he was into her too and broke up with her after 4 years together. Last I heard, he was still single and I'm happily married and have 2 children. So, it worked out for me at least. Story 76. When it happened to me, it was with 2 common friends. The biggest thing was feeling like a third wheel in my own relationship. Then, he became weird about his phone. He wouldn't let me change the music on it if we were driving together, wouldn't let me call my phone on it if I lost it, etc. He had to do it himself, no matter the circumstances. He bought a privacy screen protector for it as well. Then he started going to the gym and not coming home until late and already had eaten dinner elsewhere, when we used to eat dinner quite often together. Then, right after these signs, I found out he was cheating on me physically and emotionally with 2 different women that we both knew. We were together 5 years. Things get better though, and you heal. Slowly but surely. Story 77. I saw the way he looked at her, while I was right there. He looked at her just like he used to look at me when we first started dating. It was so obvious. Story 78. The screensaver, lock picture, no longer of us me, and they suddenly start talking about someone new a lot, not romantically, bringing them up often, like a teenager talking about new friend. Story 79. She started waking up earlier than usual to work out at home. It was to secretly message the guy on TikTok. Also started hinting at an open marriage, or at least with our friends. Another married couple that we spent a lot of time with, spoiler alert, it was that guy. And the biggest one was, she had a really hard time orgasming during for about 3 months while the cheating was going on. And before that, our life was good. Multiple times a week, always orgasmed, so that was really strange. The wife of the guy found some of their TikTok messages because his phone synced with their tablet, and she told me.